نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي. اللهم فقهنا في الدين. ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح. ربي زدني علما. ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين. ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين. ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين. اللهم إني أسألك رضاك. اللهم إني أسألك العافية. اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh once again. Alhamdulillah, we are talking about Surah Baqarah and we have covered until Ayah 211 last time. So today we will do three ayat, Ayah 212, 13 and 14 from Surah Al-Baqarah. So we'll start with the word by word meaning, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim.
زين للذين كفروا الحياة الدنيا ويسخرون من الذين آمنوا والذين اتقوا فوقهم يوم القيامة والله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب.
Zuyina. Zuyina means to beautify something, right? Like in like we say zinat, like the beauty of something. So zuyina is like the passive form. So zuyina, it has been beautified. Okay, and so something has been beautified. Lilladina. So lam is li is one word. It is a harf of jar. Li for alladina, those who. So li and alladina become, and the alif gets dropped. So it becomes lilladina. Okay. So for those who kafaru, who have disbelieved. So beautified for those who have disbelieved is what? Al hayatud dunya. Al hayatud dunya. Al hayatu, the life, ad dunya of this world, of this life. Wayaskharuna, and they ridicule. And are the ones who ridicule? The ones who have disbelieved and for whom this world has been beautified. What do? They yaskharuna, they ridicule, they make fun of, they joke about, and they may make fun of or poke sarcastic comments or taunts or ridicule at what? Minal ladina amanu, towards or of mina alladina, those who amanu, those who have believed. So those who disbelieve, for them the life of this world is beautified and they make fun of those who believe. Walladina taqaw, walladina were, and alladina, those who, and those who ittaqaw, fear or have taqwa of, right? Ittaqaw, have fear Allah. Fawqahum, fawqa is one word, hum is another word. So fawqa, above, hum, them. So those who fear Allah will be above them, above those who disbelieve. Yawm al-Qiyamah, when? On the day, Yawm, on the day, al-Qiyamah, the day of Qiyamah, of resurrection. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yarzuku, from rizq, yarzuku, that to give rizq. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yarzuku, he provides or he gives rizq, man, to whoever, yasha'u. Sha'a is like we say Masha Allah, right? Masha Allah is that whatever Allah wills. So Sha'a is like will. And Yasha'u, that whatever he wills, whatever he chooses, his choice. Bi ghairi, bi ghairi, without any hisab, without any measure. So beautified for those who disbelieve is the life of this world, and they ridicule those who believe. But those who fear Allah are above them on the day of resurrection, and Allah gives provision to whoever He wills without any account. And number 213.
كان الناس أمة واحدة فبعث الله النبيين مبشرين ومنذرين وأنزل معهم الكتاب بالحق ليحكم بين الناس فيما اختلفوا فيه وما اختلف فيه إلا الذين أوتوه من بعد ما جاءتهم البينات بغيا بينهم فهدى الله الذين آمنوا لما اختلفوا فيه من الحق بإذنه والله يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
Kanan nasu was annas, mankind, ummatan. Ummah is a community, like we say the Muslim ummah. And what is ummah? Ummah is a community that is that is combined together on one kind of thinking, one kind of thought process, one kind of mission, right? So ummatan, a community, wahidatan, single, just one. فَبَعَثَ and then raised up Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an-nabiyina. An-nabiyina, nabiyina is the plural of nabi. Nabi is one nabi, and nabiyin is the plural prophets. Right? So the all mankind was a single community. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised up the prophets, mubashirina. And who were these prophets? What did they do? What was their mission? Mubashirina, they are the bearers of glad tidings. They give bushra. Bushra is to give a good news of some kind. To, like when we congratulate somebody about something, or when we, supposing there is an operation, or there's a cesarean or C-section or something going on of a lady inside the theater, and the family is waiting outside. So when the doctor comes out and says, gives the good news that the mother and the child are both okay, and the child's been born, and the child's healthy, and everything. So that's a bushra. That's a good news. Right? So that something good has happened. Right? So that's one kind of bushra. So mubashirin, they give glad tidings. They give good news. Wa mundirina. Another is to warn somebody about something. That supposing on a weather forecast, we listen that, okay, this is something like a tornado is going to hit, or something's going to happen, and you need to prepare, or there's going to be a power out, and everybody should do some preparations beforehand or something. So that's a warning that something's going to happen, and you better prepare for it. So that's some, and then you are heading in a direction where, or if somebody is driving, and when they're driving and there's a very steep turn ahead, or if there is, the way they're heading, the roads are closed, or there is a valley or something, and if you keep driving and you might fall and it might lead to an accident or something, then that's a warning that you are driving in a wrong direction and you need to change course. So there's a warning that something, you're heading in some wrong direction, which might lead to harm, or something's coming towards you that might lead to harm. So warning somebody for it. That's another. So the the task of the prophets was to mubashirina wa mundirin, and to give glad tidings and to give warnings. Wa anzala, and sent down. Who sent down? Here anzala goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he raised up the prophets who were mubashirin and mundirin, and he sent down ma'ahum, with the prophets, with whom, them, with the prophets, al-kitaba, the book, bil haqqi, in the truth, liyahkuma, liyahkuma, to from hakama, to judge, like a ruler or a judge is called a hakim, right? Liyahkuma, to judge, baina nasi, baina, in between, annas, people, fi ma, two words, fi and ma, fi, in, ma, what, fi ma. So in what is the judgment being done between people? In what? Ikhtalafu, they had an ikhtilaf, they differed. Like we say, ikhtilaf is when there is a difference of opinion, or there's some things that people don't agree upon. So there is something people are not people are disagreeing about, and then this book will judge between them. Like judge, as in the book will tell you the right criteria. There could be 1,001 criterias in the world, but this book will tell you what is the right criteria and how to, what is right and what is wrong. This book is going to tell you, not the societal trends and not what majority of people believe. Just because a lot of people believe in something, that doesn't make it right or wrong. And just because very few people believe in something doesn't make it wrong either. And so whenever there's a difference, this book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down, it judges in truth. Fihi, in it. Fi, in, he, it. Wama, and did not. Ikhtalafa, they differed. Fihi, in it. illa, except. So ma, the word ma is sometimes used for what, and sometimes it has another meaning, which is not. And how we tell it, one of the ways to tell it is whenever in the same sentence illa comes afterwards, illa is except, then the meaning is not, right? And sometimes the other ma is used, which is whatever. Like for example, here later in this ayah, lima, and lima here the ma is what. It's not the meaning is not here. So wama ikhtalafa. You don't need to remember this, but just so we start getting familiar to this, that the same word with the same spelling could be a different word as well. And the grammar, as we go ahead, will tell us what word it is. وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ, and they do not differ fihi in it, illa, except الَّذِينَ, those who, utuhu, who is a pronoun referring to it as in the book. So utu, they were given, except those who were given the book. Mimbadi, from after, ma, what, ja'athum, ja'athum, came to them, al-bayyinatu, the clear proofs, baghyam, out of, and why did they do that? Why did they differ in it after the truth had come to them and the clear proofs had come to them? And here the reasons given, out of what? Baghyam, out of jealousy, bainahum, among themselves. Fahadallahu, and hadallahu, hada, from it's for guidance, like we ask ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path, right? So hada, the same, comes from the same hadaya. Fahadallahu, and guided Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alladhina amanu, to those who believed, lima, regarding what, ikhtalafu, they differed, fihi, in it, min al-haqqi, of the truth, bi-idhnihi, by his permission. So it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who guides those who believe with his permission, and he guides them regarding their differences in the truth, in complete truth. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yahdi, he guides, man yasha'u, whoever he wills, ila siratim mustaqim, towards a path that is straight. And so here it's saying that Allah, it is Allah who guides, and you cannot guide anyone. Allah is the one who guides, and we can give the message. And the prophets, even the prophets, they just their purpose was illal balag, right? Just to convey the message. So they were just bearers of glad tidings and warnings. They just give glad tidings and warnings, which is also for us. But the guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot make anyone guided. So this is saying mankind, the whole of mankind was of one religion before their deviation. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the prophets as bringers of good news and warners, and sent down with them the scripture in truth, to judge between the people concerning that in which they differed. And none differed over the scripture except those who were given it, after the clear proofs had come to them, out of jealous animosity amongst themselves. And Allah guided those who believed to the truth concerning that over which they had differed by His permission. And Allah guides whom He wills to the straight path. And the last ayah today, 214.
أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يأتكم مثل الذين خلوا من قبلكم مستهم البأساء والضراء وزلزلوا حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله ألا إن نصر الله قريب.
Or hasibtum, do you think, and that tadkhulu, that you will enter, dakhala, to enter someplace, like in Urdu we say dakhil hona, right? So hasibtum an tadkhulu, or do you think that you will enter al jannata, the paradise, walamma, while not, ya'tikum, has come to you, masalul ladina, like came to alladina, those who khalaw, passed away, min qablikum, from before you. So do you think that you will enter paradise before what came to those who passed before you has come to you as well? Massathumul ba'sa'u, massathum, touched them. So them here refers to those who passed before you. Right? So those people who passed before you, massa, like when we are doing wudu, we do massa of our head, right? And we do, so what is massa? To touch something and to, so massathum, to touched them, ba'sa, adversity. So ba'sa means like any type of adversities, like, somebody is very poor and they're not, they don't have enough to meet their needs, and they are broke, and they don't have any money, they don't have any resources for their situation. So fakar or faka, like we call it. Right? So that is referred to in ba'sa, that kind of adversities or that kind of problems that somebody has. And what the ra'u refers to hardships which are individual, in the sense that they are either from your own nafs, or from your heart, or some emotional problems somebody's going through, or somebody's going through some mental difficulties, or some bodily difficulties, like somebody's going through some bodily pain, or so those kind of things are called darra'u. So ba'sa'u, those are the adversities of lack of resources and money, and fakar faka, those kind of things. And darra'u are the hardships of mind, body, and heart. Those kind of hardships, those kind of difficulties. Wazulzilu. Zulzilu refers to, and again, these all three terms are different kinds of adversities, that different kind of troubles that can hit a person, different kind of tests that we might be going through. So they were touched with they were touched with all of these. They were touched with at different times in their lives, and sometimes all of these things together as well. That adversity in terms of lack of things, adversity in terms of physical bodily pain, or mental challenges, or emotional, lot of emotional pain and everything, was zulzilu. And zulzilu is to be shaken about something, right? And they were shaken, like when somebody has so much trouble, or they are in so much either there is a fear of something, that they're shaken, like they're so scared that they're shaken to the core, or they are so disturbed or something. So zulzilu, they were shaken. And even in English we say that, okay, you were shaken, he or she was shaken by this, right? This literally shook them. It was so hard for them that it literally shook them, and they were unable to handle it. So touched them, adversity touched them, hardship touched them, and they were shaken, hatta, until yaqula, said ar-rasulu, the messenger. The messenger said, walladina amanu, and those who believe, they say ma'ahu, with him. Ma'ahu, who here refers to the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So adversity, hardship, and touched them, and they were shaken, until the messenger and those who believe with him, all of them said, mata nasrullah, when will the help of Allah come? Like they were so much shaken that even the messenger and the believers, they called out, like, Ya Allah, when will your help come? We need your help. And when is your help going to come? Like they were so much shaken to the core, and they had so much adversities and so much hardships, and so much troubles, or so much challenges. uh, Allah, listen unquestionably. Allah is like when we are calling somebody to pay attention to something. Okay, here, notice, remember, this is the thing here, right? So Allah is like you're calling somebody to say, okay, pay attention now. This is what it is, right? Or we can imagine like some siren is being blown. Okay, pay attention to what is going to be said here. Inna nasrullahi qareeb. Inna, definitely, indeed, there is no doubt about it. Nasrullahi, the help, nasara, is a help that is a kind of help that comes. Nasara is the kind of help that comes when somebody is hit by adversity and they need help to get out of it. So, Allah inna nasrallahi qareeb. Definitely, indeed, there's no doubt about it. Don't you ever doubt it. Don't you ever have two doubts about it, that the help of Allah, what is it? It is qareeb. It is near. It is very near. But it is very near to you. It will just come to you when Allah wants, but it's like it's right there for you. It is already decreed for you, and it is there for you. So don't lose patience. So this ayah is saying, or do you think that you will enter paradise while such trial has not yet come to you as came to those who passed on before you? They were touched by poverty and hardship, and they were shaken until even their messenger and those believed with him said, when is the help of Allah? Unquestionably, the help of Allah is near. We will talk a little bit more in detail about these ayats. So The first ayah here, it says, زُيِّنَ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا وَيَسْخَرُونَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَاللَّهُ يَرْزُقُ مَن يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Beautified for those who disbelieve is the life of this world, and they ridicule those who believe. But those who fear Allah are above them on the day of resurrection, and Allah gives provision to whom He wills without any account. So now, before this, we learned about the last week, and before that, we learned about that some people, what do? Is they leave the blessings and they leave the guidance and they walk on the footsteps of either Shaitan, or they walk on the footsteps of Bani Israel. Like we learned about the history of Bani Israel, but we also learned that there are people who will follow the same footsteps. And Subhanallah, if we look at the Muslim Ummah today, the kind of charge sheet that Allah Ta'ala has shown us against Bani Israel, against the people who were chosen before us. And they were definitely chosen. They were chosen people. They were chosen just like we are chosen now. They were chosen before us. But that blessing was taken away from them because of the crimes that they did. And subhanallah, our ummah, if we actually compare, it would be almost like a carbon copy. We are engaged in the same crimes, and many of us are engaged in the same crimes. Not all, obviously. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah for that. But we're engaged in the same crimes and we expect a different kind of a result. May Allah Ta'ala forgive us and protect us. But as we know, as we study this and as we notice this, the question comes in our mind that okay, we learn about Bani Israel and everything, then why we know that this is the thing, the book has come, the Quran tells us exactly, then why are people leaving the blessings of guidance and walking on the footsteps of Bani Israel? They know, they have been told very clearly where it is leading to. Yet, why are they going there? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the reason, the psyche behind this, and what is going on behind this. The why are they following this? Everything is that زُيِّنَ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا, that the life of this world has been made beautified to them. And why does this happen? When people refuse to accept the facts and the truth, which Quran was revealed with, and what they do is they turn their attention exclusively towards material world, and then they come under the influence of this world's allurement, this world's pull. This world has a pull. The things of this world, like a good house, a large family, a good family, or a lot of money and power and wealth, there is no denying that there is beautification and there is a pull in them. If there was no pull in these things, then there would not be any test for us in this world. If everybody had no desire, then we would be like angels. Angels have no desires, but human beings are supposed to have those desires and supposed to navigate through those desires. Right? Each one of us wants the best for our children. Each one of us wants the best kind of a house that we can get. Each one of us wants ease in our matters. Each one of us wants certain things and everything. We want to eat good food. We want to live in good houses. We want to travel in comfort, in a reasonable amount of comfort. All of us want that. But when the truth comes to people, and when people recognize that truth and everything, but still they turn their attention, they reject that truth, and they turn their attention towards the material world. They know this is wrong, but maybe, this will give me more money. This will add more. I know this is wrong, but come on, like this is, we hear things like that. I know this is wrong, but like, come on, like in this day and age, how are you supposed to make money then? Or, I have a family to feed as well. And so things like, we hear things like that, although if we actually analyze, if the same people who are engaged in any kind of crimes, which there are things, whether it's a family politics, work politics, or in communities, we see that people who cheat and do things, not everybody gets caught. And then we think, why are these people doing it? And if we analyze, even if they don't do it, it's not that they will starve. They just like maybe have less branded clothes, or maybe their watch will go from a Rolex to a normal $20 watch from Walmart, but they could still tell the time, for example, right? They would still have these things. But then why is it, what has happened here is when truth comes to them, they recognize that this is right and this is wrong, and yet they turn a blind eye towards what is right, just because of they want the more extra profit, and they turn towards the pleasures of this life. Then what happens? Then this life is made even more beautiful for them, right? Then it engulfs them so much that they're unable to think of the next word, that they just get lost in it, right? And they keep running after that and everything. And if you think about it, even in normal day-to-day examples. For example, I'm sitting on my desk and I'm studying for something, or like a student has a test the next day and he has a book or something and he's studying, and he's focusing on the book and studying. And then on his desk there are other things as well. There's some stationery, there's some pens and everything. There's maybe a laptop. There's like a couple of things there. But when the child or the student who's studying is focused, then everything else becomes blurry. They don't pay attention to this thing. And sometimes somebody studying, they're so engrossed in studying, then somebody would, one of their family members, a child or a husband or like somebody would come next to them and they would say something, and they'd be, or be standing there for a few minutes and you'd be like, oh, when did you come? I didn't even notice you, right? Because I was so focused on that. And also, for example, if there is a speaker who's speaking at a conference, there's a big room or something, and supposing if we put a screen um, in front of the speaker, or like half of the crowd is stuff, then the speaker can't see those people, right? They're screened from it. Like, so if a screen comes in front of our eyes and we are too much focused on that, what happens? We can't see behind it. We are blinded to anything that is after that, right? So similarly, what happens when somebody gets so engulfed in this dunya, what happens is then they forget akhirah. Then they are made to, then it becomes even more attractive to them. If they reject the truth for this dunya, Allah Ta'ala beautifies this dunya even more for them. Okay, go then. If you want to go, then go. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ghuyur. Like he has like human beings have a kind of self-respect, and he is the Rabbul Alameen. And if he sends you the truth and he keeps sending you the truth and you ignore it, you're not going to get a limited number of chances. It's not going to keep coming to you again and again. You deny it enough time, if enough number of times, and then Allah Ta'ala lets you go. Then he makes this world even more beautified for you. And we've learned before, then the seal gets on the heart and the hearts don't stay soft anymore, and they're not able to recognize the truth anymore and everything. So basically, this life, that's the root cause of it, that when this life becomes overly beautified and becomes their whole focus of life, when a person's whole focus of life is just to make more money, or just to have gain more power, or just to get more social recognition, or gain, or nowadays even as petty as get more social media likes or something, or everything, then they don't then akhirah doesn't come in their picture. They don't think about pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't think about what's the truth. And then for example, from a hadith we learn that the Prophet ﷺ told us to the effect that this life is a prison for a believer and he wants to go in real paradise, right? And people of kufr, on the other hand, they find this life so beautiful. For them, this life is all about Disneyland and Vegas and this and that, right? And there's a person who shared this story that they felt that they went near hell and came back. They said, I went to Vegas and I literally felt I saw Jahannam there. People were selling their homes, their wives, their children for the sake of gambling, and there's nudity and alcohol and everything is there. And they're like, I'm so grateful that I've come back from that, right? But not everybody gets to come back. When somebody gets, it's like a quicksand, like a daldal, right? When you if you step on it and if you don't get yourself out in time, then you will keep getting sucked in more and more and more into it. And what happens? The more somebody is engaged in kufr, the more dunya becomes beautiful to them. So it's like a direct relationship. The more you deny the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are all around each one of us, whether it's the changing of the day and night. Everybody's seeing the plants growing up from the sand, soil. Everybody's seeing the day and night. But why do some people find the why do some people look at the sky and they can remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through it? They can see the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the other people, they're looking at the same things, but they see nothing. They're like, yeah, so it's cool. So what? Like, you guys are weird. Like, what are you talking about? Right? But why is their mind blocked? Because the more they deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala signs and everything, the more this dunya looks beautiful to them, right? And this dunya becomes so beautiful that for disbelievers, it becomes a fitna, right? And the more it becomes a fitna for them, what happens? They become so engrossed in it and everything that they start making fun of those people who believe, because to them it doesn't make sense. Why would you, like, for example, somebody's fasting, why would you leave up the good food of this world? Come on, who's watching you? And okay, nobody's here or something, then you're by yourself, why don't you just drink some water? Nobody's watching. Like, their logic is they just can't understand, why would you give up food, when nobody's asking you to, and there's no material benefit for leaving the food. The same people, for health reasons, they would gladly fast, like they would do intermittent fasting for weight loss easily. The same people, if they have an operation, if they are undergoing a medical surgery and they are told to fast, or they even have a blood test and they're told that it's a fasting blood test and you have to not eat anything for 10 hours, they'll do it because it's for the sake of health and something they can see. But the same people will not fast for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And if somebody is doing it for no apparent reason, according to them, like a health reason or some kind of a benefit of this world, then they find it weird. They find it awkward, and they say, okay, they start making fun of these people, and they condemn those who believe as narrow-minded. You're like, you guys are so narrow-minded. Like, come on, who talks about these things in today's day and age? You're talking about like backward times and everything. And they go sometimes a step ahead, that they even challenge them to bring the promised punishment upon you. You think like, if somebody tells them, you know what, like, there is one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to follow his rules. He's the one, he's the creator of the every earth and heavens and everything on the earth and in the skies, and we should obey him and everything. Otherwise, there is a sense of punishment. Like, we might face punishment about it. And then they say, really, punishment? What are you talking about? If there is a punishment, you know what? I'm standing right here. Like, why doesn't lightning strike me? I'm saying I don't believe. Why doesn't lightning strike me right now? Like, and we see people making silly, crazy statements like this, calling punishment upon themselves, but they think it's all joke and fun to them. They're like, really, come on, you are the one who's being awkward and weird here, right? And sometimes they say things like, you know what? Why do some people make fun of other people? If we A lot of times people make fun of other people who are not at the same financial level as them. Somebody who doesn't have enough money as them, somebody who's not at the same social status of them. They think, okay, these are people inferior. We don't make fun of those whom we respect ever. Like, a person would not make fun, a right person on fitra would never make fun of his mother or father. But a person who, or say, if we are in the company of somebody who we really love and respect, we would never make fun of them. But we only make fun of people whom we don't respect or who we think are inferior to us, right? And so these people for whom this life of this world is beautified, and obviously when the life of this world is beautified for them, they're running after it, right? And whatever we run after, it is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he gives us what we run after, right? If somebody is running after this dunya, he will get this dunya. He will get the things. And if somebody wants to be rich, sooner or later, if they are engaged in all kinds of practices, they're not worried about doing anything, they will achieve something reasonable, and yeah, everything, and they'll have that status. And even if you think of people in Medina at that time, the muhajirun, after the migration, what did the muhajirun do at the time of migration? They left their homes and their many times their families and their wealth, and many a times most of them came literally empty handed to Medina. So they were rich businessmen before in Mecca, and or they had some amount of wealth in Mecca, but they have left everything for the sake of Islam, and they have migrated literally empty-handed. They are poor like that. The Ansar, on the other hand, they accepted the Muhajirun with open arms, and the Muhajirun have come to them, and now each family is supporting another family. So when you are supporting another family to stand up, so literally, if you think of a modern world, it would be like every family takes on one refugee family, right? And they are bearing the expenses of two families now. So obviously the financial strain would be there. And also, after people have moved, after the Medinan period starts, what happens is there are a lot of wars and everything. First, they don't have money. They're struggling. Whatever resources the state has, the city has, those resources are being stretched in much more people. And on top of it, there are wars and battles happening. And war means, and all of us know war eats up a lot of wealth, because you have to invest in weapons, you have to invest in things. And when the men are going for war, that means the economy is suffering when they're going for a war. And if they're going for a war, whether the fight actually happens or not, because a lot of times fighting did not actually happen, but they still had to travel and go, and they camped there, and they did some treaties with people around those places and came back. But all this traveling requires some amount of food and some amount of preparation. They need some rides. So all of these things are needed for expeditions and wars and everything, right? So they have investing all of this, but the munafiq, the hypocrites, are obviously not investing. They don't believe in sacrifice. They've accepted Islam for the sake of basically staying relevant politically, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ is now in charge and they see Muslims flourishing. So they're like, okay, it's best if we join their camp, because if we are called Muslims, then we have access to all these things. If you're not Muslims, then we are a nobody anymore. So a lot of the people who are hypocrites, when they became Muslims, they are not sacrificing anything of theirs, and they're making fun of those who sacrifice, or who donate, or who give sadaqah and everything. And obviously, because they are not sacrificing anything, they are richer. They are wearing finer clothes. They are having much more to eat, and they are not struggling financially and everything. And when they come across these people who are, they come across believers who don't have as much as them in this world, they feel that they're justified to make fun of them. They say things like, we are better than you in this world, so why shouldn't we believe that our behavior is also better than yours? Like, we're obviously better because, see, we have all this more than you, so obviously it is more. And even today we find a lot of people saying things like, uh, and even if you go to a lot of religious ceremonies, whether it's the church, or whether it's the Hindu ceremonies and everything, if we just pay attention to the duas that they're making, most of their duas, if not all, would be for this dunya only. And they would all be like, the Lord will bless you, the Lord will give you this blessing or that blessing, and may God give you a life of 100 years, 1,000 years, and you get this happiness, and your children, and your money, and your wealth, and your this and that. But there is almost none ever talk about akhirah, or pleasure of God, or seeking the pleasure of God, the one true God, not anything else, right? So that is the focus of these people. And but the fact is, even though they might be making fun of these people, uh, the ones whom they're making fun of, that is the believers, they will be on a higher level on the day of judgment. The joke that they're making is on them, basically. The joke is on them, that they are making fun of all these people, but this life is very, 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 very short. This life is very small compared to the afterlife. This life is not even, when people would be raised up on the day of judgment, and they'll be asked, how long do you think you stayed in the dunya? How long did you live for? And they'll say, maybe a part of a day or something. And so they won't even feel, compared to the day of judgment, even, and afterlife is, and Jannah or Jahannam is forever. But even compared to just the day of judgment, this life will feel like nothing. And obviously, the amount of years we spent in the grave is much more. Leading up to the day of judgment is much more than our life in this world. Like, there are so many people who've been buried for more than thousands of years, and our life, average life, is less than 100 years, right? So the thing is, the ones they're making fun of, these believers are going to be on a higher level than the disbelievers. This gives a few points that the scholars have mentioned. First is to know that Jannah is above. Like, a lot of scholars have extrapolated from this, that they will be above them, as in Jannah is physically, Jannah is above us, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says that He gives to the believers whatever He wants, without any hisab, like without any, like, it is, He gives so much, right? And what happens is, so many of us, we don't want to follow things because we fear that others will make fun of us. Like, sometimes people are like, okay, you know what, I want to, there'll be a girl who'll be like, I want to do hijab, but you know what, people make fun of the girls who wear hijab, so I don't want to wear a hijab because I think somebody will make fun of me, and I'm like so worried about this and everything. And Allah Ta'ala is saying He provides whom He wills without any measures. If you are craving for like being respected by people and everything, don't worry if you don't get it right now. Allah Ta'ala will give you without measure. And even if you think you will lose some money or you'll lose something else, don't worry about it. Allah Ta'ala will give you more and more. For example, also, like, let's say praying salah in school. Somebody's going to school and they're thinking somebody will make fun of me. Somebody makes fun of them, that, oh, what are you doing? And they were praying salah. So there are different options that the child has. One, the child could start crying, that, oh my God, like, why did somebody make fun of me? And they could start being upset about it. Second thing they could do with this, they could start making excuses. Oh, I was just stretching and I was not doing anything, like, that's what a child could do. Or the third option, the child could say, yes, I was praying because I was thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the God who created me, and this is my way of thanking and praying to God. You don't have to agree with me, but this is my way, and there is nothing to be defensive about it. There's nothing to be, like to feel embarrassed about it or anything. We should feel confident about our faith. And so also, for example, somebody comes to us and say, "Oh, Muslims don't eat pork." Oh, come on, you're missing something, man. This is such this is like it's so tasty. You have never tried pork, really? Or and they would act like that, and so and a person could reply, yes, I don't, and that's a fact. It's true, because and I'm content with it. I don't feel the need for it because I'm pretty happy with it because my God told me not to, so I don't. And I don't feel that I'm missing out anything, and I'm totally fine with it, right? And as we learned before as well in the surah only, that enter into ayah number 208, that enter into Islam completely. Be at peace with Islam. Don't feel, if you are frustrated yourself, or if you are irritated, or if you're not sure of things yourself, then you will not be able to carry this forward. Then anybody who pokes any criticism at you, it will start to bother you more. But if you're confident, then their criticism is not going to bother you because you know you are on the truth, right? So have that kind of confidence, right? And also here, one more beautiful thing is that it is the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he mentions that the believers are the one who will get without hisab. They'll be above the disbelievers, and he will get without any hisab. He'll give them as much risk, as he wants, and there'll be no hisab of it. But at the same time, he's silent about the other side of it, the flip side of it, that what is the fate of those who ridicule them, because it is but obvious, and it is a rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he hasn't mentioned that. It is but obvious, and it is an for those who want to take lesson, it is an indication that you can turn back, right? There's still time. You can turn back and you can correct your ways. And um, those who are actually making fun of believers and everything, it's because just let them do it, because basically what they're doing is they're wearing some colored glasses, so they cannot look at the world clearly. They are going to look at things like this only, right? And those who have their sight on the akhirah, those who are living their life for Jannah, those who are living their life for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Ya Allah, be pleased with me, and I don't want everlasting hardships. And then for those people, the troubles of this world, they don't bother them so much. They're like, okay, there are some hardships, they'll come and go. This life is short anyway. I have to go. Their focus is on there, right? And why did Allah ask us to check out Bani Israel? If we continue, if we look at the previous ayat, that and throughout the Surah Baqarah, in fact, we had so much like, see, Bani Israel did this and this and this and this and this, and don't follow their footsteps and something like this. So why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask us to check about them? Because if we for example, if we study archaeology, what do? We come across something comes up, and we find it, and then what do? We research and we find out. We try to find out what happened, and what can we learn about their culture, what happened about that time and everything. Now, Bani Israel is a living example for us, right? It's a case study for us that, okay, this is the point here is not that we go out and start saying, okay, we start engaging in like, oh no, Bani Israel are this, or people of Israel are this, or people of this religion are like this and everything. No, the purpose is for us to look at their chart sheet, to look at the things, that look at their case study and see that we don't fall into those things. And another thing is another thing in this ayah was that some scholars have written, how do people make fun of people who believe, and how and the different ways that each one of us will encounter this. One way is to pretend with a lot of empathy. Oh my goodness, poor you. You would like your dressing sense and everything. Oh, you have to do all of this. You have to cover so much. You're looking 10 years older than you used to look. I am like, I'm your well-wisher. Why are you doing this to yourself? It's so hot. Oh my God, I feel for you. So it's like it's making fun, but it is disguised as sympathy. It is disguised as empathy and everything. Another kind of joking or making fun of somebody would be that to consider someone as stupid or like less intelligent or something. And if you look at all the jokes about Islamic attire or something, or somebody would say, come on, you're mad, eat, drink, and be merry, come on, this is life to live. Like, really, you're not using your head here and everything, right? And the third stage could be that openly ridiculing in a very inappropriate way. Like, for example, some niqabi or some hijabi is going and it's like, oh, this person looks like a ninja turtle or something, right? Or making fun like that, and which is like deliberately insulting and making fun in that sense of it. And Astaghfirullah, may Allah forgive us that today we find people from Muslims themselves making fun of things about Islam or making fun of other Muslims who are trying to follow the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala not make us of those people who use the pretense of making fun or having fun to ridicule another person who might be better than us in terms of what they're doing. And just because they're leading a more peaceful and they're not as vocal or as argumentative doesn't mean that, or if they have less money than us or less resources or less social position or power or position of power than us, doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them any less. In fact, it could be the reason could be quite the opposite, because the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is based on what? Is based on taqwa. Those who have taqwa, they will be above, right? And again, we hear about taqwa in throughout the Quran. In fact, we started this book with ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This book is a guidance for those who have taqwa. It is taqwa when we come with taqwa, and this book will help us increase our taqwa, and it will grow our taqwa, and our taqwa will keep growing as we study more and more and more ayat of the Quran. And as we increase that, inshallah ta'ala, we have a hope with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's raising our ranks as well with every step. Like they say, on the day of judgment, we said, according to the amount of Quran, that you keep reading and you keep, as you keep reading, until the time you stop reading, as you keep reading, you keep climbing up and up and up and up and up, right? So, and what do we do in reaction to this? If somebody makes fun of us, or if somebody makes fun of us for the sake of because of our religion or things like that, then what do we do? The test for us is to stay peaceful at that time, because not get bothered by this, to understand that where these people are coming from, because this world has been beautified for them. They cannot think beyond this. There are blinders in front of them. Their sight doesn't go anywhere else, right? And um, when our focus is on the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with me, then these things won't bother us anymore. This is the literally the acid test of believers. Like, okay, that you will come in this world, come across different things in this world, then how do you deal with them, right? And if we really put this um, uh, you know, if this life was beautified even for a believer, just like it was for a kafir, then what is the difference between the two? Right? The difference between the two is that this world is something that the kafir strives for, while this world is something that the believer utilizes. He lives in this world. He doesn't discard this world. He lives in this world, but the dunya is in his hands, not in his heart. Right? If he has a six-course meal, he's happy. If he has just a quick sandwich, he's happy too. And as long as he's working towards the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And desires of this world, the thing about the desires of this world is that, and everybody knows this, that the desires of this world are endless. Like if you have $100, you want 1,000. If you have $1,000, you want 10,000. If you have 10,000, you want 100,000. If you have 100,000, you want a million. If you have a million, you want 10 million. There is no end to the desires of this world. And we learn from a hadith that in the sight of Allah, the sight of this, the value of this world and everything it contains, if it was even as much as a wing of a mosquito, then he would not have given even a drop of a water to the kafir to drink. But basically, what this hadith means is that the value of this world is nothing in the sight of Allah. That's why he's like, okay, somebody who disbelieves, Allah Ta'ala says, go enjoy this world, because this world is nothing. And there is a ashar to the effect that one of the scholars was asked, that you guys say that, you Muslims, you say that this world is and he was a beggar, and he said that, you guys say that this world is a Jannah for the disbelievers, but this life is a prison for the believers. But see, look at you, you are a believer, but I don't think this life is a prison for you. You are wearing such fine clothes, you have all the pleasures of this world, you have such a good house, and you have everything. And look at me, I don't believe, but I have nothing. I'm poor. This life is not a Jannah for me. and everything. And subhanallah, if any one of us would be asked this question, we would be like stumped for a second. But subhanallah, may Allah Ta'ala bless the scholars of our past for their understanding and for their wisdom that Allah Ta'ala bless them with. And may Allah Ta'ala grant us that wisdom as well. That the scholar replied, you know what, when I go to Jannah, when I go to Jannah, then I have a lot of pleasures in this world. But when I go to Jannah, then the pleasures of this world will feel like a prison in front of them, because the pleasures of Jannah are endless. And they are something that we can't even imagine. They are limitless, and there are countless bounties, favors, and pleasures in next world. And they are much, much, much more than any expectation or any desire of any human being or of all the human beings combined. If we put all the desires and expectations of all human beings combined, the Jannah is even more than that. And as for you, if you go to, may Allah Ta'ala protect you, but if you go, and may Allah guide you, but if you go to Jahannam, then if you reach Jahannam, then all the hardships of this world compared to even a second in Jahannam will feel like Jannah to you. That this would be this was nothing, this was pleasure for you if you see the hardships, and if you were to face the hardships of hellfire. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from that, and may Allah Ta'ala grant us the best of this world and the best of the afterlife, and protect us from the fire of Jahannam. So this lowly life, this dunya, it's like we shouldn't waste our precious life for it. Our life is precious. We have a limited time on this earth. And it's like when something's really precious, our time is really precious, there's no point in wasting it on things that are not worth it, right? And end of the day, whether a person is educated at the Harvard University or whether a person is uneducated Bedouin living in a desert, both of them have to go in the same sand. Both of them have to go in the same earth. Once they die, they'll be buried in the same earth, right? So we have to make sure that we have our focus on the right place. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about another fact that people in the next ayah, that kanan nasu ummatan wahidatan, that people were one single community before, right? So sometimes the question comes to our mind that what was the religion of man when we see different religious groups of today, and we see so many different religions, and we're like, how did so many religions happen? What was the religion of man when man started on this earth? Did history begin with this groupism, and or were they created later? What happened? How did these things go? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that what happened was, in the beginning, people were on Tawheed. There was one community, all agreed on one point, one origin, oneness of God, that is Islam. After Adam alayhi salam, for several years, for centuries, several centuries, the world was on Tawheed, and then slowly deviations started to happen, right? So what happened was that, and again, if you look at the modern science, the Darwinism, for example, it says the opposite. They say that man was lost in the beginning, then they developed from monkey to apes to human beings, and they kept on searching for God, and they went here and there, and they got like stumbled here and there, and then something. So they're progressing more and more, and they're getting if even if in spiritual sense, a lot of people say that we're developing and we're getting closer in that sense. But Islam tells us actually the truth is opposite. Human beings were sent with Tawheed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first of all, we did not come from monkeys. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam and Hawa radiallahu anha, and they were sent to the earth with Tawheed. Adam alayhi salam was sent as, and he was a prophet. He lived this life as a prophet on this earth. A first human being as well as the first prophet, and all prophets from Adam alayhi salam until the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, each and every prophet was on Tawheed. They all believed in one single God. That is the sign of a prophet, that he comes with the truth from God and he gives the truth. So every human being came with Tawheed. First of all, every prophet has always been on Tawheed and called his people to Tawheed. And human beings who were on Tawheed to begin with, why? And every human being is born with Tawheed in their fitrah. Every human being. And why is that? Because we made the promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We said, we learn in the Quran itself, Alastu bi rabbikum, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us before he, all our souls, before he sent them to the earth, that am I not your Lord? And all of us responded, Nam Ya Rab, that you are, definitely, you are our one Lord, and we'll worship you alone. And the purpose of our life on this earth is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what happens? So here in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that mankind was a single community. Then Allah raised a prophet. So there's a missing thing here, which is sort of understood. And again, Arabic is an elliptical language. What does it mean by elliptical language? Like in English, sometimes when we're writing a text, we write a half a sentence and then we write dot, dot, dot. What does that dot, dot, dot mean? The dot, dot, dot mean there is something here, but it is understood. So you can make sense of it. Like the people who have a mind, who think, they can make sense of it. What is meant by here by that dot, dot, dot. It doesn't need to be all mentioned out. So Arabic is a very elliptical language, and in Quran many times also in Quran also you will find that there are parts which are implied. Okay, so mankind was a single community. Then what happened? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised prophets, but then in between deviations had happened. So everybody was on Tawheed before, then they deviated. And when they deviated, when people deviate, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the prophets with glad tidings and warnings and sends them a book when people deviate. And how did people deviate? When did the deviation start, first of all? And our scholars have noted that for many centuries after Adam alayhi salam, people were on Tawheed. Yes, there were crimes. Yes, there was a crime, Harbil and Kabil. We know that story, that one of the sons of Adam alayhi salam killed his brother and everything. But before before that happened, they had both put up a sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one person's sacrifice was accepted and one was not, right? And then he killed his brother. But this shows that he committed a crime, but there was a belief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was still there. Right? So Tawheed was still there. There was no shirk, there was no idol worshipping, there was nothing. People were on Tawheed for many centuries. Then what happened? That at the time of at the time of Nuh alayhi salam, there were five elderly people who were believers. They were very well-known believers, and the people looked up to them. They were worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and everything, and their names were Lat, Manat, Uzza, Ya'ub, and Ya'uz. Okay, so these five were the people who were very old and everything, and they were believers, and they were very pious people. They were very good people, and everybody looked up to them. And when they passed away, how does Shaitan trick people into shirk? Is when people pass away, it's like, wow, the times were so good when they were there. They used to remind you of such good things. They were such nice people. Why don't you put up a picture of them to remind yourself of them and everything? And like they would put pictures, and slowly they put idols, and then generations pass. And then what happened as generations pass, they lose the thing. And if in their area of worship they've put an idol there to remind themselves of worship, of like how this person used to worship, we should worship. And then they slowly think, as if they don't teach their generations, slowly what happens is people start to think, oh no, these are the idols that we are praying to, or these are the idols who will pray to Allah on our behalf or something. They will get us closer to Allah on that behalf. And even if today we speak to people of different religions, they all say we believe in one God. Oh no, these stones or these things that we are worshiping, these are the things which will get us closer to God. You don't understand, right? So but that's exactly what shirk is. When you pray to anybody other than God, when you ask anybody other than God, that and so these people, that's how Shaitan tricked them. And then in the name of these people who had died, who were pious people who used to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Shaitan tricked them, and slowly people introduced new things and drifted away, and different communities were formed, and each community sort of kept developing their own sense of religion, their own kind of sense of things. And then when this happens, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? He sent prophets, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets. And what did the prophets do? The prophets invited people back to the right path, informed them of the consequences of drifting away from the right path. And then they warned, the prophets warned people that if you go about the right path, go from the right path and reject the truth, what is going to happen? There's warning there. And they also give glad tidings of good news, of congratulations to those who accepted their invitation and came back to the right faith. Then the prophets gave them good news, and the prophets gave them the good news of what? Of ultimate salvation and peace. And the prophets did not, and every prophet who came, they did not bring any new religion. They presented Islam. Each prophet brought Islam to their people, and they and tried to put together people and create that community once again, to bring them together once again. That was the job of everyone. Yes, Sharia was different. The rules of different times have been different. And the complete package has come with the final revelation. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken the responsibility of preserving as well. But every prophet brought the same message. There was no prophet who said worship anybody else. Every single prophet, whether it was Musa or Isa or Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, came with the same message, that worship one God and one God alone. So when these differences happened, and the time before Nuh alayhi salam, when all these pious people had gone and people had started slowly first revering them, then respecting them, then increasing in their respect, then exaggeration. So exaggeration over time led to idol worshipping. And then people are steeped in shirk and idol worship. And at the time of Nuh alayhi salam, when Nuh alayhi salam was trying to call them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Shaitan has used the same tricks ever since. And even today, we see a lot of Muslims doing things like worshipping at a grave. They would ask, some people take the name of some companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and they ask, we ask this person and we ask that person, or we ask this Imam or we ask this one. But the thing is, what Quran, if we study Quran, then we understand very clearly that mankind came with the same Islam has continued throughout mankind. That's where it began with, and people differed. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his extreme mercy sent us not only prophets, but he also sent us along with the prophets a books to do what? To tell us the truth. To whenever there's a differences of opinion, or when there are differences, these books were sent to mend these differences, right? And what people do still is, and just like those pious people who were close to God, their names were used to create idols. People who call towards Tawheed, in their own names, shirk is created, right? And people do shirk nowadays in the name of love for something. And even may Allah Ta'ala forgive us, even in the name of the love of the Prophet Sallallahu today, we hear a lot of naat, and a lot of like these nasheeds and something which border on words which should not be said, which the Prophet ﷺ never told us to say things. In fact, if somebody came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, like whatever Allah wills and you will, and the Prophet ﷺ rebuked that person right away, that no, are you equating me with Allah? Say whatever Allah wills, right? I'm a prophet. Don't equate me, don't put me in that same. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that don't do to me, oh my followers, don't do to me, to the effect of that, don't do to me what the Christians have done to Jesus, right? He was a prophet and I am a prophet, and treat me like a prophet. Don't raise my status. So you don't need to worship them, you need to follow me, right? And the purpose of a prophet is to give a good news and to warn, and the purpose of the followers is to follow the footsteps. Whose footsteps are we going to follow? We need a role model. And the prophets of Allah lived the life of Islam and showed us how to live it, and we need to follow their footsteps. But when we ask Allah Ta'ala alone, right? We don't ask the Prophet. We don't do any of the symbols of worship like ruku and sajda and qiyam or dua. We don't do any of them to any human beings, not even a prophet. We do those are exclusively for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, right? And it is the mercy of Allah that he sends the prophet, he sent the books, and now that the prophets are not here, but the book is still with us. And to understand the book, we have accounts of how the Prophet ﷺ explained the book to us, how he lived different things, how the Sahabas and how the Tabi'een and Taba Tabi'een. So Sahabas are the companions of the Prophet, who met the Prophet ﷺ in their lifetime itself. Then Tabi'een are the people who are the children of the Sahabas, who are in the next generation of Sahabas. So they are the followers of the Sahabas. But the Tabi'een are ones who did not actually meet the Prophet themselves, but they were following the right path because they were following the rightly guided Sahabas. And Tabi'een is one generation after that. Okay, so in the matters of Deen, another thing Allah Ta'ala tells us in this ayah is that in the matters of Deen, the differences that are created, and there are people who create differences, and differences are not created by simple people who live simple ignorant lives and they don't have much of knowledge. These deviations are created by people who have knowledge. Once knowledge has come to them and they are knowledgeable in things, Then they create differences. And why do they create these differences? Because of personal jealousies, of prejudices, of being obstinate about something, being selfish about something. They want more power about something about others, or put somebody else down. These are the reasons why. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Baghi, right? They do it out of jealousy, out of malice against somebody else and everything. If we see that when people are doing something which is, and this is also a trick of shaitan, because if we look at people who are doing things like, which are, which involve, which do not involve the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, for example, there's a movie being shot, then we see a whole crew working together, like a cameraman, a director, a producer, the actors, and everything. But when we see the work of Deen, then wherever there's a teamwork happening, there's always forces trying to split up the team, trying to create any argument, trying to create a friction between people based on whether it's color, whether it's a sect of a thing, whether it is a location. There are thousands of, and in the days of social media, there are thousand and one ways of creating differences amongst people, right? But what we are told is this book is haq. And sometimes what might happen to a believer is, and each, alhamdulillah, each person is accountable for their own selves. We are not accountable for what somebody else does. We do the best that we can to, if somebody's trying to create a fire, we try our best to not let it flare up and to extinguish it as much as possible with wisdom. And if and not to add fuel to the fire. But beyond that, we are not responsible for their actions. We do the best that we can, that Allah Ta'ala has equipped us to do. But sometimes when we go out in the sake, for the sake of religion, and we're trying to learn, and we see so many differences, and so many people of Deen being ridiculed, and so many scholars being made fun of, and everything, and or people having arguments or differences of opinion, and they're making those differences of opinion to be huge. And sometimes, as seekers of the truth, we get confused. We believers who have a limited set of knowledge, we are still on the path of knowledge. Our knowledge is not that extensive, and we get confused. Where do we go? Like somebody says this and somebody says this, and I'm confused. What do I do? Then Allah Subhanahu wa Taala tells us that He has sent these things in her. Take the refuge from the book. But even in the book, when people are trying to create differences, then go back to Allah, and Allah will guide you. If you are going back, if you keep asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on you, to give you tawfiq, to show you the way, then even if there's a lot of confusion, even if there are a lot of clouds, the clouds will move away eventually, and He will show you the way of where to go. So even if people around you, and may Allah Ta'ala forgive all of us, but for if you find, if in this class that we are coming together, if you find that, or if you feel that something's not agreeing with you and everything, then ask Allah Ta'ala to guide you to something better. And if this is right, that Allah Ta'ala, may Allah Ta'ala guide me and all of us. But if this is right, may Allah Ta'ala help us stick to it. But if it is not right, may Allah Ta'ala guide us to something better. May Allah, if we are on something incorrect, if we are believing something which is incorrect to be true, then may Allah Ta'ala correct our beliefs. May Allah Ta'ala, so Umar radiallahu anhu used to say that, Ya Allah, for whatever I forget, remind me of it. Whatever I'm jahil of, then give me the knowledge of it, right? And help me to remember you in the moments of the night and the day and all time. Like, so basically, make me one of those who do your dhikr day and night, and guide me to right thing. And if I forget, then make me remember. And then whatever I don't know, I don't have the knowledge of, give me that knowledge, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us those knowledge when, and if you look at the Muslims, for example, there is so little to create friction. And yes, there could be valid number of differences of opinion about different things, and some are valid. A lot of them actually are valid, because if we think about it, even in a family, if there are twins who have been raised by the same parents, same upbringing, same kind of financial background, same kind of social background, yet they turn out different personalities, and they have differences of opinion, something, and which are to you your way to. There is room for movement in our religion. There are things in which there is room for multiple interpretations and everything. Yes, there is room, but for the basic things, for the foundations, there is. We have only one Kaaba. We have only one book. We have one Rasul whom we regard as the final Rasul. There is no Rasul after that. Yes, the people have made claims to be a prophet after that. And even in our Muslim tradition, when we learn about that history, we'll find there are people who've made that claim. But then those claims have obviously proved to be false. Not only been false, but also have been proved to be false. And and people sometimes create new things in the name of a hadith. They have like they find some really good quote and they're like, oh, I'll ascribe it to this and just to increase the honor. We don't need to do that. We don't need to have those kind of taxes or anything. We have to be confident whatever the Prophet ﷺ said is the truth. We don't need to ascribe to him what he did not say. And we don't need to create new meanings out of the things in the Quran. Yes, we study the Quran on the basic level. We can take lessons for ourselves, but to go deeper and to find out fiqh rulings, we must consult. We shouldn't try to take out those deeper meanings by ourselves, because there's a danger that shaitan might trick us. So we should go to somebody who has studied extensively and who has that sort of a knowledge, right? And whom we trust. And if there are multiple people who are giving different opinions and we are confused, then ask Allah to go back to Allah and talk to Allah and pray to Allah, and Allah Ta'ala will guide us. In any situation where there's confusion, sooner or later, if we go to Allah with pure heart and sincerity and ask Him, He will clear up the confusions for us and He will show us the way, right? And Allah will show us the way has two meanings, that He shows the way to whom He wants, and he shows the way to one. The other meaning is that he shows the way to the one who wants to be guided. So if you don't even want to be guided and you're just like pretending, then pretending doesn't work. Allah Ta'ala knows what's the condition of the heart. Pretending might work for people, it doesn't work for Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. He knows what is in your heart, right? And what is in my heart and what is everybody's heart, right? So we cannot say something and do something else. Allah Ta'ala knows what is in our heart, and we need to do like that. And Quran explains things in clear terms. Now there is no reason for people to be misled or to be in doubt about differences in the religion or to hesitate in accepting. And anybody who leaves behind narrow-mindedness, prejudices, obstinacy, or have this readiness to accept the truth, they will find the truth. Allah Ta'ala will guide them, inshallah Ta'ala. Right? And also the fact that when Allah Ta'ala says that this book decides, and Allah Ta'ala decides between it, the truth, and that on the day of judgment the truth will be decided, then that also shows us that the fact that there will be a judgment means that there are differences that are present. Like from a question to select the right thing means there are incorrect options as well, right? So in this world we will never find, we will never find, and they were not at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were all kind of people, and until the day of judgment we'll find all kind of people. We will not find that the world is 100% Muslim and everybody becomes a Muslim and there's no division, there's no difference of opinion. That is not realistic. Our deen is realistic. It tells us to, yes, aim higher, aim for excellence, but be realistic at the same time. That's not going to happen. There's going to always be differences. And believers, you should be assured that you are in the right. Don't lose your confidence just when you see people making fun of you, or when you see that when we come across disbelievers, they don't like to benefit from Islam, but more than that, they also don't like you to benefit from Islam, right? So they don't like others benefiting from Islam either. So it makes them, even though it has nothing to do with them, it makes them uncomfortable. Why are you becoming so Islamic? Why are you going into so much of this religion thing and everything, right? And no matter how much the disbelievers oppose us, believers should stay firm and steadfast on the right path, right? And there's a clear hint here of a great responsibility on Muslims, because you are the trustees of this new religion, this religion that has come to you. So when you go ahead in this religion, learning this religion and teaching this religion, and being the representative of this religion, whether at your workplace or your families or wherever, you don't create divisions like previous people did. Don't create divisions, because Allah Ta'ala does not like people who create divisions among people. Allah Ta'ala loves people who bring people together. Like in our deen, it is said that even if two people are fighting, you're allowed to go to them. You know what, that person, your friend, she said she misses you, and like she's not very happy about the fact that she had an argument with you, and although she didn't say anything like that, but you're allowed to, like, that is one kind of lie that is allowed, that you go to both the people and you try to bring them together. And just to bring people together, if you stay quiet or you say something positive, then that is allowed, even. So that there's so much reward in bringing people together, and obviously for the right reasons, for the reasons of like goodness, and not for the reasons of committing crimes or things like that. Then in the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that, do you think paradise, you will just reach paradise just by saying it, just by using your words? Allah Ta'ala is not impressed by just words. You'll have to prove it, right? You will have to walk your talk. What are you going to do? And regarding this ayah, Qatada and Asudi, they said that this verse was revealed regarding the Battle of the Trench, when the Muslims were afflicted by pain and suffering, heat and cold, harsh living, and all manners of harm. And it was then they said that that Yaqula Rasulu Walladina Aman Ma'ahu Mata Rasulullah, that that the whole of Arabia is there to attack them outside the city. They're all inside the city. The only thing protecting them is this trench that they've dug around the city of Medina, and they have a limited amount of supply. The army is ready to butcher them, and outside they have come to literally finish off the Muslims once and for all. They're just tired of this Islam thing. They just want to finish them all. And there's army right in front of you. The only thing protecting you is that you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough weapons, you don't have enough manpower to fight them. And if they come in, they're going to destroy your families, your homes, your women, your children. They're going to basically kill and loot everything, uh, and they want to destroy. That's their aim. So the hearts were in their throats, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah number 33, ayah 10, that the hearts gaped up to the throats. Their hearts were in the throats almost, and they were it's like expression of so much fear and stuff like that. And another companion, Atta, said that when the Prophet ﷺ and companions entered Medina, they were at the time of Hijrah, after the Hijrah, when they came, they were afflicted with a lot of adversity at that time because they had left without any money. They had abandoned their homes. Now their property had been all given to pagans because they preferred to be with Allah and the Messenger. And in Medina, there were the Jews who were from whom the Muslim expected that they would be the first ones to convert, but they revealed their enmity towards the Prophet ﷺ. And some of the rich people concealed their hypocrisy in their hearts, who became Muslims. So there was multiple problems happening, multiple kinds of hardships happening and everything. And also there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ to the effect of that those who have passed before you had to experience such experiences that someone used to be caught and placed in a hole dug in the earth, and a saw used to be run over his head in such a way that this person's body was cut into two pieces, and iron combs used to be pricked into his body, which used to cut through the flesh and reach the bones. And this person used to bear these tribulations, but he did not use to give up his religion. And this was before the time of the Prophet. And the Prophet said to his people, there were people who bore so much for the sake of Allah. And do you think you will just go to Jannah without anything? Yes, you will bear hardships. Why did Bilal and Sumayya have to bear all these hardships? Why did the Prophet and the Prophets of Allah and all these companions have to bear all these hardships, right? And when we say La ilaha illallah, when we come to Islam, it's like we filled an application form and we gave an interview for a job or something, and we gave an entrance test, and now we've entered. But this is just a beginning. Saying La ilaha illallah is a beginning to a lifelong journey in Islam, and a journey of on a straight path where we keep moving ahead. A path is not just to see the path and stand there and admire the path. The purpose of the path is to walk on the path, right? And the path takes us every time, and this path, we're always on the path. We're always moving, moving, moving. This path will take us more, and we will grow out of our own, we will grow out of our comfort zone. Every little bit, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reveal more to us, and there'll be more growth. We'll experience more growth, and we'll experience more knowledge and more understanding as time goes on. And when we start our relationship with this book, and when we become conscious Muslims, then what happens? Then the tests will come, and these tests will be against our own nafs. Sometimes we will do some things, and it will be against our habits. It will be against what we want to do, what we feel like doing. Sometimes we'll have to put away our ego. Sometimes we have to, we have to do something that, we really want to do something, but we have to stop ourselves, right? And so a lot of times we have people who come to Islam and they have a lot of excuses and they leave early, right? But when we come to Islam, we have to walk its path, and we have to make a belief that we will be tested, and we have to remember all these people before who were tested. So, for example, if we were to buy a utensil, like if we go out to buy a pan, or if we go out to buy, in the olden times, if you were to buy an earthen pot or a ghada, like we call it a mitti ka ghada. So if you go to buy that, we bang it, and we like tap on it and different things, and we see if it's good enough, it is strong, then we buy it, right? And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has called us to Islam, He had gifted us with Islam. Now, to make us work for the sake of Islam, He will test us as well, and He'll prepare us as well. And if we want to be a people in the foundation, then we have to be prepared that yes, there will be things that will come, there'll be troubles that will come. And in this life, while living in this life, we have to face those things. Like we cannot run away and do anything. For example, when a mother teaches a child, sometimes there's a mother of many children, or children have a lot of needs or something. Sometimes a mother would, like, while she's cooking, she'll make the children play with, like, the food, and she'll make them into shapes, like a triangle shaped cookie, or she'll make a soft dough. She'll give a little bit of her dough to the children. Okay, play with this and everything. In that playing, she'll be teaching. So we have to use that kind of wisdom, that whatever we are doing in this life, wherever Allah Ta'ala has put us, He's put us in different places and different kind of situations, different kind of people that we're dealing with. Utilize those situations to do the work of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and know that in those situations too we'll be tested, right? And when we come quicker here, then we will then and we have sabr. We don't keep doubt in our own heart. We have tawakkul on Allah, that definitely. And what is the tawakkul of Allah? What is the tawakkul that we are having? That in namal usri yusra, that with every hardship that face there is ease, and there's double ease that comes with every hardship. And if we stay firm, then even in this world we will be ease will come to us. Like, for example, the sahabas who came, who had next to nothing, they didn't stay poor all the time. In fact, there was a time when Medina got so much wealth, it has so much wealth that there was nobody to give charity to. People used to bring their charity and move around to find out somebody that they could give charity to, but they couldn't find anybody who was in need, right? And another lesson for us is that don't be ungrateful. We are ungrateful when we have tests or something. Doesn't mean we turn ungrateful. We keep making dua. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Taala for help, and even the Prophet asked Allah for help. There's no shyness in asking Allah for help. To Allah, we can ask as many times we want and as much as we want, and we ask and we ask and we ask, because we cannot give Him anything. We can only ask Him, and He loves to give. So it is a win-win situation. We ask Him, and we have some points of self-assessment here, that when a test comes to me, do I accept it? Do I do sabr on it? Do I worry about if I'm pleasing Allah Subhanahu wa Taala through my reactions or not? Right? And is my test bigger than the test of people before me? And what today, in today's day and age, what is my test? What is my test? And then once I understand my test, then it becomes easier to navigate it, right? And then Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, Allah inna nasrallahi qareeb. Verily, the help of Allah is near. O thirsty travelers, don't lose your heart, for indeed you're almost at the fountain of it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people that embrace His tests, and who are able to pass those tests, who remember Him throughout those tests, and to whom the help of Allah come. May Allah ta'ala make us of those people who keep the akhirah in our focus, and not make us of those people for whom this dunya becomes their sole purpose of living. May Allah ta'ala make us of those people who hold dunya in our hearts and hands, and not in our hearts, and who utilize it to gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala make us of those people who do not deviate from the straight path, who keep on the straight path, and who invite others on the straight path. May Allah make us of the true successors of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who follow his path, and who share from him, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, share from me, even if it is one ayah. Even if it is one ayah, share from him. Share from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah ta'ala make us of those people who share the beneficial knowledge. May Allah ta'ala accept us as people of the Quran. May Allah ta'ala accept our coming together. Rabbana taqabbal minna wa minkum. And may Allah Ta'ala reward us for this, and may Allah Ta'ala preserve our good deeds and our efforts. And even though these efforts are broken, may Allah Ta'ala still accept them, and may Allah Ta'ala reward us for them. Just as He has united us as sisters in Islam in this world, may Allah Ta'ala reunite us once again as sisters in Islam in Akhirah, under the shade of His throne on the Day of Judgment, and then once again in Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen ya Rahman Rahimeen. Subhanaka Allahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta نستغفرك 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 ونتوب إليك.